This was the first time I've seen a radically different burner technology.
In how long?
In my career. I believe at this point that we have, one, I think we've clearly got the best and the easiest to implement technology, right? There's all the burner manufacturers, I believe, would love to have this burner, but there's none others that we're seeing in the US market. We've got the point that we're now getting significant traction and engagement with major orders, execute those orders. Clearly, we got line of sight to break even. Looking at this first stage with the technology we've got today, again, this is highly speculative, so everyone be aware, but I think 100 million is probably a reasonable, with the markets as they are today, with the technology we've got today.
Welcome to The Upside with Lou Basenese. When most people think about the energy sector, they don't think of it as a bastion of technological innovation. But that is a miscalculation because there is plenty of innovation that goes on in one of the biggest industries in the world. In fact, there's a company that I've been involved with for over a decade. I currently sit on the board of directors. And today I have the pleasure of interviewing the CEO, Jim Deller. Jim, welcome to The Upside.
Lou, thank you very much.
For people that are unaware of what Clearsign Technologies does, can you tell us what the big breakthrough is that Clearsign's made? Yeah,
before just starting explaining what we do. So we make burners. They control the flames that go into oil refineries and petrochemical plant.
So the huge refineries that are, making all the oil, the gasoline, everything that we need to basically do everyday life.
Yeah, that's right. So the oil has to be heated to break the products up, to heat it up. The oil flows through pipes that loop around inside a great big oven.
Yeah.
Right. Inside that oven, there's some very sophisticated flames. We make those flames. That's okay. The technology and the development of the technology is geared towards controlling the pollution.
Okay.
So
So the focus is processing the chemicals, but at the same time, minimizing the pollution.
We have to produce the heat, but do that in a way that minimizes the pollution. And that's really what's driving the need for technology. There's new regulations for clean air that are constantly rolling out and developing around the world. The goal is to come up with a efficient means for our customers to meet those regulations. There are other technologies out there, but they are ridiculously expensive. We've got a way of basically not making the emissions in the first place.
So you avoid the problem completely and therefore reduce the levels. I mean, what's the magnitude that you're dropping emissions? I mean, put it in a context that people might be able to understand.
So an uncontrolled burner will run ballpark 100 parts per million of NOx emissions. That's what we're talking about. The typical best available generic burners in the market are probably getting in the region of 20 ppm, maybe 15.
Okay.
We're getting down to 5.
So a 95% reduction in these critical pollutants that everyone cares about.
That's right. And for our customers, there's other technology out there that can do it that's been around because these are real numbers that have to be achieved for clean air requirements to get the ground level ozone down. The old technology is basically a back-end cleanup system. It's a selective catalytic reduction unit. It basically has to be built into the back end of the heater and is extremely expensive. Right. So really for the refiners and the companies that need to reduce their pollution, we're enabling them to meet the new regulations at a much, much reduced cost to the technology that's
so it's reduced cost, it's meeting an objective they have to. It's not forced by the government per se in terms of subsidies. It's actually just a cost of operation, but you're giving them a benefit that they wouldn't have had from something else.
That's right. There's clean air requirements, and as populations grow and industry grows, there's a need to tighten those regulations up. That's just what has to happen. We just provide a much more economical way for our clients to do that.
Yeah, so it's one of those actually clean technologies that works and actually saves money, is economical as well. Talk to me about how you ended up here, right? Because we've known each other for a while. You studied actually NOx emissions and different combustions, did a doctorate in it maybe a few decades ago. We won't put a date on it, right? And then how do you end up here? Because you were running a huge burner division for Calidus, doing over 100 million in sales a year, and now you're working with arguably an upstart company, technology company in the space.
I am. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, doctor over in the UK, moved over, joined Calidus in 1996. Calidus was purchased and became part of Honeywell. I ran that global business under Honeywell. And then in 2019, I was approached and took this job. Now I'm an engineer by background. Okay. This was the first time I've seen a radically different burner technology.
In how long?
In my career. Right. I've overseen a lot of burner developments, a lot of new technology, but they tend to be incremental. They're on a theme and they basically manipulate that and they get a little bit better and a little bit better. The Clearsign technology and the way it works is completely different. So if I can, when you get into the weeds of the combustion that occurs within the flames, there's two chemical pathways for making NOx in a flame.
Okay.
The standard burner is really focused on addressing one of those chemical pathways. So there's a flaw in the level they can get to. What's radically different, and I found really exciting with the Clearsign technology, is it provides a means to address both of those.
Okay.
And that is...
So it gives you another lever to pull to reduce the emissions.
Yes. Yeah. And that gets us down to the levels that the new emissions require and to the levels that have only really previously been achieved by the big, expensive SCR.
Give us, and we'll talk about this maybe a little bit later when we get into competition on SCR, but like you talked about a magnitude reduction in emissions, but it's also on the cost. So let's just put it apples to apples. A burner that Clearsign could provide costs, in a normal or typical installation cost how much? And then what would the, alternative SCR, selective catalytic reduction system cost?
Well, we've got data. We announced an order for a global refinery in California, right? The engineering, but that project that we're now starting on, they gave us their estimated numbers for an SCR solution for that one heater.
Right.
That number was $40 to $60 million.
$40 to $60 million.
For one heater on that refinery.
And what was the order for the Clearsign technology that addresses the same problem?
I'm not going to go pricing up, but and really what's important is the cost to the customer.
Yeah.
So the comparative cost to the customer to install our project, our estimate of that is in the region of $5 million, maybe in the 5 to 10, but
so it's almost a tenth of the cost.
A tenth to a fifth of the cost. And on top of that, the SCR's probably got a ongoing operational expense of about $1 million a year.
Okay.
Right. We have aftermarkets and there's maintenance, but for Clearsign, that's probably $100,000.
Yeah. So just a fraction of the cost. So you talked about this. This is a major win for the company. What are some of the other recent developments? Because if you look at the press releases, it seems that order flow is picking up and you're moving from a period of kind of pilot adoption, which you'd expect for large global refiners to start onesies and twosies here and then wide scale deployment. I mean, is that accurate that you're starting to see that?
We think that's
trend?
right. I mean, we think we're going through a transformation based on or the magnitude of the recent orders we've had. We're in the process of completing a very large, sophisticated order going down to a chemical plant on the US Gulf Coast. That project was run by probably the premier heater engineering company in the US. We went through extensive testing. It's a very tight community. So we believe that performances like that are giving the major refining companies the confidence to come to us now as they start to plan their future projects to actually include Clearsign. And recently, with the engineering orders we're getting, these are the first steps in the process.
And then how many burners are these for? I mean, these types of installations, we're talking dozens at a time right now, right? Instead of one or two.
We are. So the order about to complete going down to Texas is for 26 burners.
Okay.
But the one I've just mentioned out in California includes 32. There's another one we announced just before that's going down to another refinery in Texas with 36 burners in it.
Yeah. So this is definitely scaling up because I remember the days of a test burner here, a test burner there, and now we're talking at orders of magnitude larger. I mean, talk to me a little bit about, because I don't think to the layman or the generalist they're going to figure out this is an industry. Why wouldn't they, buy 200 burners? If they operate 200 burners, they know it works. Why wouldn't they immediately do that? Is it a function of it just takes time to prove under these rough conditions you can operate and they just don't have much downtime to mess with in case something goes wrong?
I think it's a combination. I mean, for the adoption, we have a new technology. Our technology is different. Right? To get the performance that we do, it's clearly new technology. It's a company we're bringing to market. Refineries are well established. There's a lot of value in refineries. So the engineers on the refineries needfully have to be careful about bringing in new technology.
Right.
They look to see other installations. They need to have confidence that it works. So there is naturally a caution in adopting and putting in new equipment. And bear in mind, these refineries shut down typically once every 4 or 5 years.
Okay.
So if you put something in, you need to be confident it's going to work. Otherwise, there's a potential to reduce production or even cause an unnecessary shutdown or delay a startup, which you really want to avoid. So it's reasonable that they're very cautious. So it's taken time for us to get equipment out into the field and for the clients to see it and operate and see that Clearsign can deliver. We're a new company on the market. Now the orders are flowing. I mean, the question about just why don't they just buy? The reality is that the refineries know the work has to be done. They will schedule the equipment to be modified to meet the upcoming emission requirements or to catch up whatever they've got to do. But those projects are planned on a long-term cycle.
Okay.
And bear in mind, they shut down something like once every 4 years. That is quite a long cycle.
So they're just matching the sales cycle really matches their maintenance schedule and the emissions requirements that are forcing them to upgrade.
They will schedule the updating of their equipment to ensure that all of the units that have to be updated get updated and schedule that to be consistent with the turnaround plans that they have.
Yeah. Is this, I mean, I'm a similar familiarity with like the semiconductor industry where they're very reluctant to roll out a new technology or a step in the process of manufacturing. But once they've proven it out, once they've got the engineering confidence and conviction, then it scales throughout the rest of the semiconductor process. I mean, is it similar in the refinery industry where, I mean, I would imagine that you're competing against burners that there's only a handful of burner manufacturers, right? That have the legacy systems that are in place. Is there a potential for Clearsign to become the de facto standard of burners for certain applications? We
structured Clearsign a little differently. Well, we've really tried to focus on the technology that we have and then to go to market. Right. I mentioned that we've demonstrated that last project going down to Texas. So as part of a typical refining burner order, you have to demonstrate the equipment at full scale.
Yeah.
Well, to do that, you need some very considerable capital equipment. Also, to supply the equipment to the refiners, they have to approve the shop. They want to be able to trace the materials. There's a lot of investment in the specialist manufacturing facilities that they will trust. So we embarked on a strategy of leveraging our IP and forming a collaborative partnership with actually one of the biggest companies in the world.
Yeah, with Zeeco. I mean, they do maybe $1 billion in sales from my own studies. I mean,
I mean, don't know the exact number, but they're
privately held. So
they're a privately owned $1 billion company. They're one of the big two in the industry. We moved the company from Seattle to Tulsa, Oklahoma, because I think about 80% of the world's burners come from companies based in Tulsa, Oklahoma. I used to work for Callon,
no one would ever know that. So was that just because the oil boom originated in Oklahoma?
Largely, and it starts with one company that builds the combustion equipment, and then as that company gets bought and splits and the expertise is there, it makes sense that that's where the people and the resources are. So if you're starting up a new company,
you want to be
they tend to be there. And now Clearsign is there. We moved there because we needed the partnership. The Zeeco test facility is now 20 minutes drive from our office and their manufacturing shop. The expertise we needed to hire is there in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Vendors are there.
Right. So now you're getting that critical validation from a trusted partner that's there. There's enough of installations where you're starting to get to a tipping point. What do you think are the next catalysts that investors should be looking out for to just indicate that adoption's ramping up and this, the full potential is starting to be realized?
Yeah. So I think there's a few key things. Some on the very close horizon. I mean, just for the industry or for Clearsign and the numbers, the 26 burner order going down to Texas is a really big installation for us. Looking forwards, I mean, the run rate in this last quarter, just the two orders we've talked about, and there's been some other orders as well, is about 70% over the burner intake we need to break even.
Okay.
Right. We need about 160 burners a year of that size. So our burners sell for about $100,000 a piece. 60 million, 160 burners a year is what we need for Clearsign to be break even.
Yeah. So you're approaching that.
So about 40 a quarter. Well, there was almost 70 burners in those two orders alone in the last quarter. So we've continuing to, even though this is the intake of new orders, continuing that intake rate.
Yep.
So we're talking to more refiners about some other heater projects, but we're looking to keep that roll going as those projects work through the company. That will get us to break even. So that is a huge achievement and a huge milestone for
Clearsign. So just watching the order flow to just indicate adding up to those levels that get you to a point where you're self-sustaining, which is critical for small and microcap companies.
Goal number
right?
one. Yeah. Get us to break even. And also the order going down to the Gulf Coast, right? That starts up. There are so many eyes on that project. The technical requirements were high. I've seen those burners in tests. They are fantastic burners. I'm really looking forward to getting that project started up. So that extra validation gives more people confidence.
Yeah.
And I expect is going to just lead to a cascading.
Yeah. So where's your confidence level? Because this isn't the first time you've done this, right? We talked about it. You've scaled a business that's gotten to 100 million-ish in revenues. I mean, do you have the confidence that this business can do the same based upon the technology and the performance that you're seeing?
With the technology we have now, and I'm going to take a slide. We've recently completed, we had a SBIR grant and developed a new burner under that program that is, it's a technical difference. I believe that burner is going to be transformational, that will look back, and that is going to provide a platform that can open up further markets for Clearsign.
So just beyond what you're already doing right now.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
the core technology was already a step function improvement. And you're saying in your tenure here, you've developed what could be even more transformative.
Well, we rolled out the M-series burners, we called it, which got us into the gas processing industry early this year. And now with this burner, we've rolled out completed within the last months. And just seeing that and the numbers that's running at, in terms of NOx, and across the range of, well, going from natural gas to hydrogen basically means you've got a fuel gas that will range of every conceivable fuel gas blend we're going to see on a refinery is included within that spectrum.
So you can handle any fuel type.
We had a Gulf Coast chemical customer, in fact, the one that's got experience of our equipment, up paying us immediately on the completion of that DOE project to run a battery of tests simulating the fuel gases from their global fleet.
Yeah.
So they could assess the performance of this new burner, obviously looking at potential future deployments. So I'm very excited about burner, what it can do in its current form, and how it be transformed to open up different applications within the refining of the chemical industry.
Yeah. That's a good segue too, talking about the technology, right? Because it sounds like you continue to innovate. And how do you, let's get into the weeds a little bit on the technology itself. You talked about there's two ways that you can really control the emissions. What is Clearsign's technology doing that's so fundamentally different, more on the science level, right?
Yeah. So
and you got to put it in layman's terms. I'm asking the PhD to explain it to my 2-year-old.
So there's two chemical pathways to control NOx. The first is called thermal NOx.
Okay.
Right. That means
heat-based NOx formation.
You have to keep the temperature low.
Okay.
Right. If you make the temperature high, it breaks apart the nitrogen molecules in the atmosphere. That nitrogen becomes reactive and can make NOx. So first is don't heat it too much and minimize the amount of atmospheric nitrogen molecules that you just break apart because you made them too hot.
Right. And NOx is a precursor to ground level ozone and acid rain, all these things. That's how everyone...
It's highly toxic in itself, and it's a precursor to ground level ozone, which is what drive the regulations, because the EPA monitors ground level ozone, and that causes the EPA then to go to the states and say, hey, you need to roll out new regulations or
so you keep
do something.
The heat of the flame low enough to prevent the formation of NOx.
Basically, make it burn slowly. You mix the air and the fuel slowly. That keeps the flame temperature down.
Okay.
That's what all the burners do. That's the incremental development, and they just do that to a greater and greater degree.
Okay.
The key to the prompt NOx is you don't want to heat the fuel up in a concentrated form. What that means for practical purpose is you want to premix that fuel with flue gases, with air, so it's greatly diluted before it gets into the flame.
Okay.
That's what Clearsign does differently. That's the crux.
So you're on the front side and preventing the pollution essentially, as opposed to on the back side and trying to clean it after it's happened.
We are preventing the conditions that cause the pollution forming chemistry to take place.
So that's a complete paradigm shift to all the technologies that are out there.
Yeah, to address both of those mechanisms. That's what's critical. That's the core patent that Clearsign has, is that ability. It's a very distinctly different way of structuring. That's what I saw when I joined Clearsign. That was the fundamental difference that I saw.
Yeah.
This is different. We can make something special with this. And it is that how we address that second mechanism by extensively premixing the air with either the fuel or the flue gas or a combination of both before it gets into the flame.
So you mentioned patents, right? Talk to me about the patent protection on this. This is a technology that's evolved over the last 10 to 15 years from its original founding to what it is now. You're talking about applications with 100% hydrogen mix. Where's the portfolio stand now from a patent perspective?
We have some very robust, we call them umbrella patents, that fundamental technology that is the heart of process burners. It's the heart of our gas processing burners, the heart of our flaring technology. And we've got a suite of products we've really developed around that core technology. And then on top of that, as we have developed different types of burners and implemented it with different specialties or twists, we then got a second layer of IP protection that we've added more recently as we develop the...
So you continue to evolve the patent portfolio as you continue to innovate.
Yeah, we keep it refreshed, and we try and, you have to pay for patents. So we're wary of our costs. You don't just want a huge patent portfolio for numbers, but you want a critical number of patents to make sure that you're covered and that it's refreshed to make sure you maintain your IP portfolio.
Yeah, and where are you at now? The total count of patents, is it somewhere north of 100? Is it...
We're in the... Right.
And I know I should know this offhand.
Yeah, we're in the 50 plus region.
50 plus. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's a meaningful amount. You started mentioning different applications, right? There's flare applications for this technologies. There's process heaters. There's boilers. There's other burners. Where's the market opportunity? If we size this up, you talk about foundational patents and new burner technology. How big could it get? And how do you pursue those opportunities? Yeah.
So we talk about the market's obviously, the whole market is huge. The refining and petrochemical market global is a massive, massive industry.
Yeah.
I think to boil it down to what is addressable for Clearsign today with the existing technology we've got in the regions where this new generation of NOx requirements are required, there's probably about 100,000 burners installed in refining and a petrochemical plant in those regions today. The majority of those are in the United States and specifically in parts of California, and
so very concentrated market
and
pockets.
more in Texas.
Yeah.
There's some in Canada and some over in Western Europe.
Okay. So you do 100,000 burners at $100,000 a pop, roughly, but some are going to be different sizes, larger, smaller. That gives you a good idea of the serviceable
Yeah, we
market.
give the 100,000. I mean, yeah, it's plus or minus that, but that's maybe slightly conservative. But that's a fair representation that makes the math easy to look at.
What's the expansion possibilities? We talked about this 100%, hydrogen burner. Does that open up new areas of the petrochemical market and refining market to you?
I think, well, just to go back on the market with 100, I mean, that's the installed base.
Yeah.
So currently today with the burners we've had, we've been given guidance about 15 to 20% are applicable and good targets for replacing with Clearsign today.
Right.
I think with the new 100% hydrogen burner and the modifications that will enable us, that maybe that gets that up to 25 to 30%.
Okay.
Of that number.
So it's a meaningful increase.
It's a meaningful increase, but what's really important to us, and I'm really excited about this new burner, it's more subtle if you look at it, it's hard to see the difference. But having a burner that will run from 100% natural gas all the way through to 100% hydrogen means it's robust across all of the fuel gases a refinery can throw at it. For a burner that works the way that ours does, to have it operate across all of those fuel ranges, which basically says you can put it into any application. Right. And it's going to handle that fuel gas and make.
And what are the modifications required to handle different fuel mixes? I mean, is it something that can be handled with electronic controls, or is it? I mean,
no, it's configured in a way you can do it. You can throw it whatever you want to do, and the burner doesn't get.
You can switch it up on the fly from natural gas to hydrogen.
You can light it off on, and we did that in the test, and that was why the chemical customer came up. We actually ran through those tests, and the nice from the test furnace is you can do crazy things with it.
Yeah,
you can test it, and you do test it. That's why you do that, so you can.
I'm trying to
the technology in ways that you don't want to do it out in the field.
It's like putting an adapter on an internal combustion engine, a regular car that can make it use diesel versus unleaded. I mean, for lack of a better analogy, any fuel source.
Yeah, with some nitrous.
Yeah. With some nitrous. See, I don't know the chemical specifics. You do, and you're like, hey, I got this figured out. So, all right. So that's a market opportunity, expanding, new technologies, opening up additional markets. What's the competition? I mean, who are the biggest competitors in this space, and are they publicly traded or are they mostly private?
Obviously, the incumbent, the SCR technology is the established alternative technology. Those are built by almost any engineering company. They're very commonly built. The reason they're not used is just they are so expensive to install, especially when you're retrofitting into an existing heater. I mean, if you think of a heater about the size of a multi-story house, to add if that's in the middle of a refinery, to add any SCR, you basically, amongst all the other stuff that's going on, you basically got to take the roof off, build another story on that house with this chemical plant inside of it, and put the roof back on it.
Yeah, that's a huge undertaking.
It's a massive undertaking.
Yeah.
Rather than taking out the individual burners and just plugging a different burner back in the same hole.
And they're usually bottom mounted, right? So like you're talking about, instead of taking off the house, putting on another story, you're just going in the crawl space and swapping
typically,
the burner
the burners we're doing right now, they're typically floor mounted, and we've developed now to be side mounted as well. There's some side mounted, but there's a cutout in the heater and a hole cut in the heater floor with a series of bolts around it. That's the hole for the burners. So the existing burners are in that hole. When I joined the company, we set out to develop a commercial product. One of the requirements is these have to be easy to install. They have to be easy to operate.
Kind of rip and replace.
They have to be compatible with the existing control system and easy for the operators to use. You take the old ones out, and as we'll make ours, so they bolt back up, and the bolt holes match the studs that are already in the heater.
Oh, wow.
So you can truly drop one out and plug ours back into that hole, pipe it back up. Job's done.
Yeah. So what are the risks then, right? So a superior technology, it's got, an ability that no other technology can to meet the strict emissions requirements. I mean, is it really just time, costs? I mean, where are the risks in the market? Are you afraid of some other technology being invented that disrupts you, or?
I believe at this point that we have, I think we've clearly got the best and the easiest to implement technology, right? There's all the burner manufacturers, I believe, would love to have this burner, but there's none others that we're seeing in the US market. There's some that have been tried, but all the other companies got vastly more resources than we have. And we're not seeing them in the market. So they're
just not scaling into
the market. And
we've
got a significant number of installations going now with major global customers. So I think we have that barrier of having a new technology accepted. We are so far ahead on that curve, that even though we're a new company as Clearsign, I believe that we're getting to the point that we are actually becoming the accepted technology for a 5 ppm or 5 ppm range.
And you have in California have actually been designated that, right, as the best available control technology to get down to those levels.
We have 2 installations that they've assessed and they've used to reset the threshold for what they've termed a single burner heater and a multiple burner heater. That we've reset that BACT
So beyond just
level.
the IP, you have a moat of just an insurmountable, first mover advantage to a degree.
Yes.
So it's really, would you argue, it's just making sure you can, it's execution risk, sales to get to a scale where you don't need to raise additional money. So it's all the responsibilities riding on your shoulders, no pressure.
I just take it.
No, I mean, but is that an
yeah.
oversimplification, or is it really, do you see this more as an exercise in, hey, we've retired a lot of the technology risk, it's continue to innovate and then just continue to, work the sales pipeline and penetrate the market?
Is. I mean, of course, we're going to continue to innovate. And at some point, we want to innovate beyond just burners and getting into wider equipment. But at this stage, right, first goal is break even. Right? We've got to the point that we're now getting significant traction and engagement with major orders, execute those orders. We've partnering with a company like Zeeco. Zeeco is $1 billion company. So they have capacity. It's in their interest for Clearsign to succeed. Obviously, they have an interest in our burner sales, and they've co-branded the Clearsign burners and are now marketing them under the Zeeco name. So they're vested in the success of Clearsign.
Yeah.
They've clearly got
one
the
of the
resources.
biggest players with the most resources.
They have the biggest testing and demonstration facility in the world. They've got they make world volume of burners.
Yeah.
That shop's 20 minutes down the road. So they have manufacturing capacity. We have other product lines as well that we'll build in outsourced shops in Tulsa, but that's why we built there, because those resources are there. So I believe the capacity is there. It's executing on orders. It takes time for these major refinery projects to go through the process of assessing the different options and placing the order and then building the equipment. Now it's just bringing enough orders in to load that pipeline and to keep the flow going. One, to get us to break even. Of course, that's not the end goal. That's just the first step on the way.
So that's the next major milestone.
Growing the business from there.
Yeah. So, I mean, if at the end of the day, the name of the show is the upside. I mean, what do you think the upside here is if you can execute? And again, I'm not asking you to make stock predictions necessarily, but for the business, going from 5 million to how many million in revenue potential, how many units? What do you think the upside is?
Clearly, we got line of sight to break even, which is for us about $16 million. That's breaking. Looking at this first stage with the technology we've got today, again, this is highly speculative, so everyone beware. But I think 100 million is probably a reasonable, with the markets as they are today, with the technology we've got today, without
and you're not
bringing out new burners and the extrapolation
before.
From this new burner rolling out with what we've got today for what's needed in the market. I think that's a foreseeable possibility for Clearsign.
And do you think there's a point in time, a level of the business where some of these large players that want to be nameless, which is symptomatic of many industries. I mean, the semiconductor industry, the large customers don't want to be named, where some of these customers will finally say, hey, we're working with Clearsign on these installations, and that gives you another validation.
I do. Even though we're not naming our customers because we're required not to right now, they're also talking to us about wanting to do joint presentations, joint publicity. So
you can connect the dots in a small industry. There's a limited number of potential partners that it is.
Yes. Yeah. And it's in their interest too. I mean, we have a clean technology.
Yeah.
The companies working with us are obviously the ones who are at the forefront of using this new technology to address their problems. They're embracing the regulations and coming up with solutions. So why wouldn't they want to promote them working with Clearsign, especially once they've got the first installation up and running and everything's been proven out and they've passed the emissions test and
it's not just
all
good
about the credits
business,
at that
it's
point.
good PR as well for them.
Certainly, yes.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, listen, I'd love to have you back as you hit more milestones, and appreciate your time and making some of the science much easier to understand for us laymen.
I'll try.
All right.
Thank you, Lou.
Thanks, Jim.
Yeah.